Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons podcast. You can find me on Instagram at sportscard_lessons and on YouTube on the Sports Card Lessons YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and definitely leave some feedback. How is everyone doing? I'm super excited for today's guest. I listen and watch all his content. I've been told I've inspired him for some of his content. I know he inspires me for mine. He is the host of Sports Card Therapist Podcast, master of the Roundtable episodes, WCC Vintage Live Auctions, and founder of the Wolf Pack, my partner in the hobby. Welcome, Rob Girard.
Ken, how's it going, man? Listen, I don't think I need any introduction anymore on your podcast. Just like you really don't need one on mine. I just call you Ken. I don't even refer to your podcast anymore, man. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's good to be back, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I had to do this great big introduction, right? You're coming down to the end of what season 3, your 150th episode is about to drop,
It
right?
already did. Yeah, it already did. Yep. It dropped earlier this week.
You already dropped the episode, the fifth, your final episode?
Yep.
Oh, and I thought you just recorded it. I
Nope.
didn't even think it hit the press yet. All
Yeah,
right.
man. Yep.
Yeah, I got to catch up.
Well, you're a busy man, you know what I mean? I think as you've continued to grow in your personal life and in the hobby in your semi-retirement, you're a busy man.
Yeah, well, I'm a busy man. We're going to get to talk about that, about who's the busy guy, right? But first, like, let's just talk about your season 3.
Mhm.
You were the guy who inspired me, right, at the beginning, and I was always like 6 months behind you. I think I was one season behind you when we started on the podcast, and you're big about having a direction, right? Putting it out there, what you want to do, the goals, short-term, long-term goals. So when you started season 3, right? What were your goals of that season? Like when you were starting it out and you started with your first episode and you were talking versus where it ended up, because I know we both do this. I do the same thing. You start at the beginning and you think this is the direction you want to go, but I think organically, right? Your seasons take on a life of their own.
Man, listen, I would have thought that like we prepped this episode together or something before we came on, because let me tell you something. This is what my entire 50th, or should I say 150th episode was about, that just dropped earlier this week. It was just all about how the title of it was Expect the Unexpected, and it was a nod to the Big Brother show. It's a nod to the Big Brother show and Julie Chen, but Expect the Unexpected was also, just, there were so many things. There were like 8 to 10 things that happened from, and really my seasons, they're about 6 months in length, because I average about 2 episodes a week, so it's about a half a year, and in the last 6 months, man, I mean, so many things have changed. So many things, like you said, just completely taken on a life of its own. At the beginning, 6 months ago, at the beginning of season 3, it felt like it was for me. I remember saying in the first episode, like, you know what? I know the first season had an identity, the second season had an identity, and I don't know what this identity is. And I guess it's, for me to try to give it an identity before, at the launch, I guess was a bit premature. But so, I thought it was going to be like the season of the side PCs. And I literally, like, 8 to 10 things happened that I would have said, no way 6 months ago, no way that would happen. And they all have come to fruition. So it's been crazy. So to me, it just shows you how much the hobby is truly like life. You can't control anything. It's like the hobby, you would think that we have complete control over the hobby and how we decide the hobby. We have control on how we spend our money, the accounts that we follow, the content that we consume. But just like life, I mean, it almost feels like, while we make plans, God is laughing, because, there's some other things in store.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I know in this, like, I know you personally, so this is a little like for me as I do this, as I prepare for this, right? It's like I there's not a lot that I could ask you that I don't know the answer to. So as I was preparing to do this, I wanted to just kind of pick your brain just a little bit. So as not only as a friend, but as somebody who is asking you questions. Um, you started the round tables, and I know you had the season in season two. You had, I think it was 1 week, right? It was at 1 week or that you had of round tables. Like you just had a bunch of round tables in a week, I think it was.
No, so in season 2, what I did was I dedicated the entire month of July
Okay.
to, collectors and to
Yep.
super collectors,
Yep.
I picked July because that was national, so leading up to national, I did, 3 episodes a week
Hmm.
of just super collectors, and I thought that was a lot of work, like, that felt like a lot of work, but in all reality, looking back on it, I mean, that was nothing because really I just kinda had to set up a time with one person to interview them, and that was it, like, one person every 2 days, basically, but these roundtables that you're talking about that I did in season 3, I had to coordinate 4 to 5 people's schedule for every single round table, and I was doing 3 round tables a week for 5 weeks. It wa
And,
it was it was it was a job. I should have hired someone to just coordinate the times. That's how tough it was. It
yeah.
was really that tough, and there were about 4 different round tables that never came to fruition because we just could not get everyone's schedule like on the same,
Yeah.
playing field. It was unbelievable. So there were people that were like really like looking forward to being featured on one of those roundtables that never got to be, and it was because it was totally out of their controls because someone else on the roundtable couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
now they were SOL.
And I could remember you saying to me, I think I'm going to do these round tables. Like we had this conversation.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you just came up with these brilliant ideas that you were going to put all these people together. Like I know the first one you were talking about like vintage cards, and or there was wrestling, right? And then there was vintage, and then you're like, I'm going beyond that. I'm going to take because these people that I know here and there, I'm going to bring them together on. And it was just that's why at the beginning I called you the master of the round table because I just thought it was brilliant what you did. And I guess my next question to you with that is, um, what was the thought process going into putting people together? Like actually, getting certain people and bringing them in because I know personally on a couple of them, you almost kind of sat back, right? Because people were just hitting it off so well and the conversation was going so smooth. And these were people that had never met or spoken to each other before.
Yeah, so there's so many things I can say about this, man, and I appreciate the question. You're coming up with some good stuff here. I so first of all, I the fir- to give proper credit, I think the seed was planted about a year and a half ago, but I never even thought past it. So I got invited onto a wrestling card podcast, and there's 2 hosts, and then they put me and one other guy together I never met with, and then we just talk wrestling cards for like an hour, and that must have planted a seed somewhere. Um, I never really thought about it a day after, that was released, but um in season 3, I was like, I think I wanna do what is Hulk Hogan's best card kind of roundtable. And that was a bit more organized. It wasn't so much more conversational. It was more like me throwing a question out at Joe, then throwing a question out at Sam, then asking the entire group a question, going around in order, asking them. So then I did about a month later, then I did a vintage card roundtable. And that flowed a lot better. And I was like, that was a really good episode. That was like, it was just a really good episode, and I got really good feedback on it, and a lot of it has to do with really just, the guests that are on, it has very little to do with me, and in my opinion, when it comes to a roundtable, the best kind of roundtable is a roundtable that takes on this organic dynamic that I can just take my hand off the steering wheel and really just sit back and let it go, and if I personally feel like maybe the conversation is going in a different direction, or it's like we're staying stuck on the same topic for too long, then maybe I'll grab the steering wheel again. But for the most part, like you said, yeah, I mean, I think I was able to do a pretty good job at putting together really good personalities and people that I'd never met before. Also, I'm like a big hip hop fan, and what a lot of DJs do, or someone like a DJ Khaled, he'll take he'll have a beat, and then he will take five complete random rappers and put them on a track. And they've never met, they've never done anything, but he just kind of has a feeling, and he ends up kind of being like, mastering the art of the collaboration. And I kind of, so I was like, I think I can do that, but in terms of content.
Nice. Like the mix master, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears just a little bit. So I know, again, from knowing you in the past, you've had a lot of people, contact you and say, try to get you to come in on, what they're doing, on their products, or advertise their products, or, go on to, whatever, platform they're putting out. So this year, season 3, PWCC comes around, and you start talking with them, and you are now, I know you're doing the Sunday night vintage live, the PWCC live on the vintage, but just talk to me about your thought process, where there were a lot of no's, right? A lot of no's before there was a yes. It was almost like holding out. Just talk to me about that.
Yeah, and I mean, so I think there's like levels to it, right? So there's the type of like sponsorships that will come along and be like, "Hey, can you read this 30-second script at the beginning of your episode or during the middle of your episode, and we'll pay you X amount of dollars per episode or per month or per week to read this," Then there's companies or deals that are more like partnerships, and they allow you to really be yourself and do it in a way where it's you're being yourself, but you're also doing it on their behalf. And that's kind of what my partnership is with PWCC. And, they allow me to do it my way. Basically, I go on YouTube live every Sunday night at 9:30, and I follow their weekly auctions. So the same way that eBay, when you look at cards, eBay has auctions ending every 2 seconds, every 2 seconds, every 2 seconds, and millions of profiles on there, right? But on PWCC, they only have two types of auctions. They have the weekly auction, which is on Sunday nights. Then they have their monthly premiere auction, which is only once a month, and that's on a Thursday. So, um, so basically what I'm doing is I'm covering vintage cards for the PWCC weekly auctions. And there's some time and effort and homework that goes into that, but it's great. I'm going on YouTube live, and there's people that are logged in. The chat is lively. I have a co-host typically with me, and it's just, it's so right now, Nate in Cardboard Veritas has been working with me. He is incredible. I hope that Nate stays on for the long term, because him and I have great chemistry, and we both really know our vintage, and it just makes for great conversation. So, partnering with PWCC just felt right. And I felt like after, at that point, it was like 135 of my podcast episodes. I knew I was working toward something bigger, like a bigger platform, or getting out to more people. I just didn't know what it was. I knew I was working towards something, and for me, that's why I always preach to like my clients, and I say it to myself, like I discuss the importance of having goals, right? And the thing is, it's not even the be all end all to reach that specific goal. For me, the most important thing is at least just having direction, because the end point can always change. I never knew that PWCC was going to be a landing spot for me, but I knew I was headed towards something.
Mhm.
And it just so happened to be a partnership with PWCC, and I hope it lasts for a long time.
Yeah, and I commend you too for holding out, because I think most people I know that do this, right? I mean, we do this because we love doing it. This podcast, there's no health insurance, there's no 401k, there's no retirement here, right? So,
Yeah.
you I think most people would say yes to a lot of advertisements to come in, like at the first chance to say, the first chance to make a little bit of money and do it. So I just commend you to, for holding out for, holding out for what you really wanted, what you felt was a good move, because I don't know how many people would have held out, for something better.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, man. I mean, it's one of these things where I think we all want to try to figure out a way, or I shouldn't say we all, but I think in a way, yeah. I think whether if you're a collector, a dealer, a flipper, a content creator, I think most of us, and I say most of us, I'll say like maybe, who knows, if it don't apply, let it fly. That's what I always say. So if I say something, if it doesn't apply to you, let it go. But I think that most of us probably want to figure out some sort of way to make the hobby pay for itself,
Hmm.
make the hobby pay for itself. And, so yeah, I don't ever stick up my nose at anyone that makes content and takes on, one sponsorship or five sponsorships, and they're reading a lot of ads, or they're posting, a bunch of different products on their social media pages. That's fine. I mean, because hopefully the hobby is paying for itself then, because there's a lot of costs that do go into doing what we do, right? Even what you're doing, Ken. I mean, even like not even counting your time, right? Because time's the most valuable thing, but we're not even going to count the time,
Yeah.
but just everything, the cost it takes to starting up a podcast and then maintaining it. There is a cost there. There's a small cost, but it's there. The big
Hmm.
cost is at the beginning, right? Buying all the equipment and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But there are maintenance fees, there are
Yeah.
maintenance
Yeah.
costs
There's
that are
monthly
monthly.
fees for all this software.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
if you can get the hobby to pay for itself, that would be ideal.
Mm.
But you know, I think like most people, it's like, if the hobby pays for itself, it's still not going to, because all I'm going to be doing is buying even more cards than I would have been.
Uh,
So,
yeah, that's my question, or my next question, really. Like doing, it just always seems like, and we talk about this because we go to shows, and every time we have a good show, right? It's what do we buy, and it's never like put in the money anywhere or do anything. It's like, oh, look, I got this George Mikan, I have a great show, and within 24 hours I have a better card. So even though we feel like, for me, on my end, I feel like the hobby pays for itself. I don't know if it really does, but it makes me happy doing it, right? So,
yeah,
uh,
definitely, man. And I think so. I definitely try to think about cards as an investment as well as a hobby.
yeah.
I'm a collector first. I love my cards. I have gotten to the point now where if all cards went to zero, I do truly believe I would love every single card I have. Maybe there might be 5 or 10 slabs of like quote unquote inventory that I'd be like, but for the most part, I've really been able to get to a point where I love the cards that I own. And it just, at the same time though, I'm spending money on them, so it's responsible of me to look at them as an investment. And that's what I try to do. I try to be smart with my money. I try to, you know get cards that are a nice balance between me being really happy with it, and if I needed to ever liquidate, I could.
Mm, yeah. And the growth, obviously with you, but with myself too. I mean, when I think back, at 2 years ago, when we started setting up at shows, and the cards we had and the cards we were holding in our case, to now we're sitting there, and we look over our shoulders and see these cards. I mean, it's incredible how far we've come in the hobby. Just the cards alone, not never mind the podcasts, and the people, and the shows we do, and what you're doing with PWCC. It's just amazing. I guess my next question is, and I don't even know if it's a question, I'm just going to throw it to you. It's kind of a conversation that we would probably just have on a daily basis. But if you would have told me after you texted me, or you into cars, and we started talking and we got in the hobby. If you would have told me at this point this is where I would be, what my inventory is and where my podcasts at and the shows that I go to and things that I planned already, I would have told you no, you're crazy. And you had bigger dreams than I did. I mean, you were always talking and always motivating me. But where you are now, did you ever foresee that? Was that something you're looking ahead saying, realistically, you know what I'm saying? Realistically, not like, oh yeah, like I knew something good was going to come, but did you really think you would be at this level? With season 2, achieved your $100,000 card. Season 3, your partnership with, one of the largest auction house. I mean, come on, man. Did you really foresee like this kind of stuff happening, or has this gone beyond anything that you would have thought of 2 years ago?
Way beyond what I would have ever thought of. I got to be honest, man. Way beyond. I've heard, and I don't know if this is a quote that's usually said in terms of religion or not, or what it is, or spirituality, but I've heard the phrase before that, like, just remember what you wish for, because chances are 5 years from now, like, God will blow your mind with what your wishes. If you would have achieved your wishes, chances are you would have been shortchanging yourself,
Yep.
basically, is what they're saying, and what your planning is. And yeah, man, definitely. I mean, I never would imagined we'd be doing what we're doing, and continuing to evolve. I mean, it's amazing, man. And I tell you what, I think one of the I've said it before, but one of the I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for you. I truly 110% believe that. I've said it on my show when you weren't even on the show. So I've said it just talking, like, I truly feel like, steel sharpens steel kind of thing. And one of the greatest moments, and I've never really thought about it until now, but that happened, were when you and I were driving to, I think it was a New Jersey show, because I remember exactly where we were. We're just about to get on the GW, the George Washington Bridge, and you were saying, what do you think if I started a podcast? Like, what do you think? Do you think there's like room for me in the hobby? Like, what, I've had some ideas, and I've kind of gotten my feet wet with doing something with my nephew, but that's not really bringing me, it's not really kind of filling that void that I thought it would, or bringing me the happiness or enjoyment I thought it would. But with this hobby stuff, like, what do you think? And I don't, do you remember what I said?
Yeah, you know what? One of my things was, when you have a friend of somebody who does something, you say, what do you say? Oh, what do you think if I do the same thing? And most people would be like, yeah, 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 you can do it. They would never say, but in the back of their mind, you never know really what they're thinking. And I mean, I know you were completely pumped and motivated, and we started spitballing names and changing my Instagram name, and a lot of different things. But the one thing I want to say, obviously, I'd never be here without you. I feel the same way, to any extent, even in the hobby, if it wasn't for you. Um, but I honestly, I want to say this, that it was something with you that I never thought what you were saying was 100%, and then when I realized it was, I just thought to myself, my view of you just it was so much higher. Our friendship, I felt, was a perfect storm, and you're like, yeah, 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 you know, definitely make the podcast. We're going to do all this stuff, but you were there 100%, helping me out. And most people, Sherry would listen. She go, "Oh, it sounds good." And I'd say, "Rob," you'd be like, you got to change. So you were giving me honest feel, like you really wanted me to succeed,
Yeah.
right? Really wanted me to succeed. A true friend, a true friend really wants their friend to succeed. And I've met a lot of people in my life where you think that, they really have your back and your best interest in mind, and they really don't. You were that person that I met that had my back and had my best interest in mind. And it motivated me to go and really push further. So when you say, steel sharpens steel, it was knowing you were 100% behind me, I was 100% behind you. um I just felt, those two forces were just rising. You always talk about the rising, what's it, the rising tide raises the
Yeah, a rising tide raises all ships.
raises all ships. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just yeah, it's interesting, and we've talked a lot, between the podcast and the Wolfpack. We've talked a lot about relationships, and finding those relationships. And I do have to say they're few and far between, few and far between. So getting our relationship was so important to me. You
No,
know,
I appreciate that, man, and thank you. I echo those same words a million times, man. It's I feel like over the last month or so, I've been just saying a lot more. I feel like I'm like living my own echo chamber right now, but I've been saying to people like, find your wolf pack, find your wolf pack. I've like posted it on like my social media, pages, and I've, talked about it on the podcast, and because and yes, listen, it's definitely to get the name the wolf pack out there. Okay. It's definitely that, but it's really, for me, I feel like it's become a mantra because it's like at any time we can form a group of friends, right? And a lot of times what they say in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, they say, I work in the field of addiction, so this is stuff I know. They say, wherever there are two people, there's a meeting. So you don't need more than one other person to have a meeting.
Mm.
So point being, all you need is one other person to form your wolf pack, and before you know it, from there, it'll likely grow.
Mm.
And so I've been just saying and like echoing, find your wolf pack to people, find your wolf pack, whatever that means. Find your wolf pack, find the people that will support you, that will build you up, that will be happy for you. Because I feel like I look around this hobby, I look around card shows, there are so many people that I see and that I know that are really just kind of like flying solo in this hobby.
Lone
It's a
wolf.
very like solo type driven hobby. And even though, yeah, there's the community, there's the Instagram, the Facebook, Twitter, whatever kind of community you belong to, um it really is a thing. I think most card collectors, when they get back into the hobby or when they're in the hobby, I think if you just kind of start out in the hobby like as an adult, none of your other friends are probably going to collect cards. So it's important, I think, to find that one other person. Find that one other person that can be your wolf pack, and start growing from there. And I do feel like that's why I say like I owe so much of it to you, Ken, and because I really feel like like you were almost like a lifeline for me. It was someone that, like, if I had a good day or a bad day in the hobby, if I had a new pickup, if I sold a card, if I flipped a card, you were someone I could go to. I felt like I could actually, like, run to someone and tell them. Almost like how, when you have a girlfriend or you're married or something, you always have that person you could text. It's
Yeah.
like, well, in the hobby, it's like, you need a person you can text and share your successes and your failures with.
Yeah, you always need a go-to, but in the hobby, it's so much because the hobby doesn't know what day of the week it is. The hobby doesn't know what time it is. It doesn't know what time of year it is, right? So you can acquire a card on a Sunday night at 11:14 p.m. or Monday morning at 7. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no boundaries of the hobby. And we figured out pretty quickly our own schedules because we would just pick things up randomly. But I always knew, like, oh, he's at work or he's doing this. Like, I'm going to send this, take a picture of this and send it. Or even if there was a deal, like I'm thinking about buying this card. What do you think? Do you think I should buy this card? Or we would talk and I'd say, I think I want to buy this card. And you'd send me a whole bunch of, like people's story sales, right? Oh, he's got one, this person's got one. So yeah, it's you need a go-to person in here. You definitely do. And that, when you put the wolf pack together, I mean, even if I was at a show solo and I talked about this on my podcast, I could take a picture of a card, right? That I may somebody's at the table saying, "You want to buy this?" And I'd say, "Oh, like, that's a great soccer card." I would take a picture of it and send it right up, right? I would have better information from the guys in the wolf pack than I would like alt or card ladder, right? Because they're just giving me a price, but these guys could tell me like that card's liquid, or no, that card, stay away from that card, or that guy just got hurt, right? So his card prices are just things like that, just things that inside information that I wouldn't know, and that became so important.
Yeah, and listen, by all means, I definitely don't want to be looked at as the person that put the wolf pack together. Like I, it is what it is, man. I mean, we're all one. We're all,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
we all have the same voice. We all have the same vote when it comes to anything. So,
yeah, yeah.
I have no.
You were the mind. You were the you were the one that somebody has to bring things together. I mean, don't downplay yourself. I mean, we're all part of it. I mean, and it takes all parts, right, for this machine to work. But it was your vision. It was something you came up with in the beginning. And one of the questions I ask you, and you may not even have an answer for it, but what is your vision for the wolf pack, like moving forward? I mean, when we got into the card market, we never envisioned us where we are today, but now this is something else new that we're starting. Like, do you have any vision at all, or is it just something that we're just going to organically just figure out as we go? I mean,
Well, yeah, and great question, man. Let me just say, like, I think the idea of forming the wolf pack isn't because I had this master grand vision that, it was going to be something like big or something cool or something like that. I think it really comes from kind of like a sad place, to be honest. So, growing up, I was raised by a single mom. I saw my dad whenever I could, but he wasn't around a ton. And I just remember, moving around every couple of years. I was moving every couple of years, going to a different school, move towns, things like that. And I never really had like lifelong friends. Like when I think of my lifelong friends, I think of like my two cousins, but there's no one even, I'm friends with, I think, probably like three or four maybe friends from high school now, but that's, no one from like elementary, no one from middle school, so anyways, so I think like everywhere I've gone, it's always kind of like stuck with me, not ever really having like a true core group of friends. You know what I mean? I always kind of had that insecurity of like sitting alone in the cafeteria type mentality. And I think that's why I always have just wanted to be surrounded by like-minded individuals with good hearts.
hmm,
You know what I mean? Like you could be a like-minded individual, but if you're just a dick, I want nothing to do with you. And I
yeah,
think there's been a couple times where I've asked you straight up because I've bumped heads with people and I've straight up asked you, I'm like, yo, am I hard to get along with? I think I just asked you that like a week ago.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
dude, am I being a dick here? Like, please tell me. Like, I want you to tell me because
yeah,
I don't ever want to make anyone feel bad. Like, not that I can control anyone's feelings. I'm going to do what I do regardless, but there are some things I want to be cognizant about, So I truly do care about people's feelings and stuff like that, but I think, trying to form like, like a cool little group of collectors and dealers like we have, that just really came from a place of like never having that kind of group while growing up.
no.
And that's sad, but
It's a great answer though, but you know what? Good things always are born from something that are, you know, that could
yeah,
be
and
sad or negative. Yeah.
yeah. And as far as like the future with the Wolfpack, man, like I don't know, I really don't. I think like in this hobby, at the end of the day, this is still like just a hobby. You know what I mean? Like we're not paying our mortgages with it. We're not, dependent on it in any type of way.
Yeah.
So, say we have seven people like now that are just really building close together and in this Wolfpack, like a year from now, will there still be four of us? I hope so. I hope there still be 7 of us.
Mm.
But you never know, because at the end of the day, it's just a hobby, and we all have like really big time life obligations. We
Yeah.
all have families, we're all married, like that type of thing. So it's like you never know. But I know for me, I know that I want us all to truly be successful. I would like us, so we just started the Wolfpack content, the Wolfpack network, so not only can people hear you on the sports card lessons at iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, but they could also hear brand new episodes featuring you, featuring me on the Wolfpack channel, because ideally I would like to get the Wolfpack crew really branded, and figure out a way where we can all maybe get a partnership deal. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be the only one in our group that has any kind of partnership deal with a major company. I Because I don't ever want anyone to feel like, damn, he's doing it and I'm not, like, so I would love all of us to work toward that common goal of putting out the best absolute content we can, while hyping each other up, while being there for each other, while being able to give constructive feedback, without feeling some type of way. You know what I mean? Just really steel sharpening steel to the 10th degree.
Mm. Well said, man. Well said. So I know you're pressed for time. 157 days till national. Now, our tables booked, our hotel rooms booked, our plane tickets are booked. How you feeling?
Man, my heart just started pounding when you said that. My heart just started pounding.
Yeah.
Like you said, man, you booked the hotels. You were early, man. You booked everything before me. I just booked my flights last week. I know that we secured a space to throw a pretty out of this world event at National. I think that, we've been talking a little bit about it. We're kind of letting it out the bag just a little bit, but we've kind of held the details, close to our chest. And I think it's because we want to make it the best event possible.
Mhm.
The Wolf Pack, and it's gonna be great, man. It's gonna be off the hook. So I can't wait for that. And the date we can definitely give, because we are having the event on on the Friday at National. That's Friday, July 28th.
Yeah.
So mark your calendars.
Yes.
Friday, July 28th. It's going to be right there at National from 6 to 9 p.m. More details to come, that we will say.
Very, very excited. Very excited, and definitely moving forward, right? I mean, this is what we do. We're going to be doing this a year from now, and we're going to be saying again, can you imagine where we are now, right? I mean, just
Man,
there's nothing's going to hold us back, right?
crazy. Here you are, season 2, episode 16. I mean, you're coming up on 70 episodes already. I mean, and
Yeah.
you're doing incredible, man. I mean, you are, and I know I've said this a million times, but I'll say it again. You are putting out some of the best content in the hobby, in my opinion. And I really feel like that, there's a certain kind of listener that I think that we have. And I think we overlap a lot of listeners. And I think it's because we, I think the person that listens to us, it's a different type of intelligence. And I don't mean that like a higher IQ. I don't mean we have smarter listeners. That's not what I mean. I mean that, we're not putting together 8-minute YouTube shows or 5-minute YouTube shows. We're sitting down and we are really piecing together. We're piecing together 30 to 60-minute episodes
Mm.
where it's just us and the mic.
Yeah.
There's no flashy graphics. There's nothing sliding across the screen. We don't have 10 people on with us. You don't have a co-host. I don't have a co-host. There's nowhere to hide here.
Mm.
So the kind of people that I think listen to our show um, can truly appreciate the depths that we go to when talking about cards.
Mm. I appreciate you saying that because, I know it and you know it, but I don't know, you know, if people really do know it's I don't want to say it's a whole lot of work, even though it is work, right? It takes a certain type of person to be able just to talk by themselves for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, just really, and being able to, just keep it flowing without another person, without anybody to bounce it off of, right? But then to come up with the content, 1 or 2 days a week, week in and week out. Yeah, it takes a lot, but if I didn't have so much fun doing it, I wouldn't do it. And I
Yeah.
think you feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. And it's definitely a blast. It's you know, I don't know about you, but I would venture to say you are on a similar path. But with me, anytime in life when I've really loved something, I can't just enjoy it. I have to literally jump into it until, like, I basically destroy myself, and that's basically what I do with cards. It's like, I love it so much that it
Yeah.
feels like a full-time job on top of a full-time job,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I get so much joy out of it, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. It's interesting. Most people, when life really takes off for them, career and a wife and kids and all that, they step out of the hobby, right? And when their kids reach a certain age and they're at a certain point of their life, they come back in, and we interview people all the time that said, I was in the hobby and then life got in the way and then I jumped back in. But here you are, right? And with two young kids at home, and I know you're on the camera, you're on the mic, at all, like, it's, yeah, we can record. Are you available at 10:30 at night or 11 o'clock or 3? So I mean, I know for you, there's a lot of scheduling going on in the Girard household, for you to be able to be part of this hobby on some days. So really, my hat off to you. And I know I don't have as much going on as you do, and you do so much more. So yeah, definitely hats off to you to be able to juggle it all and make it happen.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. It was a blast, man. I'm here to come back anytime, man. Anytime. It's always a blast.
Well, we're gonna get you back on when you the new season, when season 4 kicks off, right? And then you can tell me what your goal is. You can come on and we can talk about your goals and put things out in the universe, right?
Love it, man. Love it. Law of attraction all day.
And thanks for coming on, Rob. Appreciate it. Hey, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe, and most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.